It's finally here, my shiny new X-Mid Pro 2. What's up everybody, I'm Dan and welcome to Backpacking Adventures. So I got a new tent. I purchased this back in January during a pre-sale from Durston Gear. And I just finally got it. 8 months. Now Durston Gear is a company located in Canada owned by Dan Durston. Dan Durston is an avid hiker and backpacker for over 20 years. He started making his own gear and started his own company, Durston Gear. He released his first tent, which I think was the X-Mid 1P, back in 2018. And since then, he's made a lot more tents. He's into making backpacks. And this tent is just the latest version, which is the X-Mid Pro 2 made of Dyneema. Now, I bought this for two reasons. One reason, I was looking for just a larger tent. If you watch me on my previous trips, you know I have the Z-Packs Ultiplex, which is technically a 1.5 person tent. So it does the job. I love the tent, but I wanted something larger. And the second reason was my wife actually wanted to get into backpacking, but she didn't want to sleep in a hammock and she didn't want to be in a tent by herself. I don't have any 2 people or 3 person tents that are under like 5 pounds. So I was looking for a lighter tent that has a true 2 person tent. So I found the X-Mid Pro 2 and I purchased it during the pre-sale. Now today I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to go over the specs. We're going to take a close look at it, talk about the price, dimensions, weights. I'm going to give you some of the pros and cons, and we'll just take a good close look at this. I'm very excited about this tent, so let's get outside and take a look. All right, here it is, the X-Mid Pro 2. Let's take a closer look. So we're going to take a look at this from the outside and work our way to the inside. This is a single wall tent that is very easy to set up. The outside and the top is made of 0.55 Dyneema, and the floor is made of 15D Sil PEU nylon. One of the really unique things about this tent is its geometry, the way it's shaped. It's not your typical rectangle or square. And this shape really maximizes space, which I'll show you a little bit later, and storm worthiness. It uses 2 trekking poles and a minimum of 4 stakes to set it up, and it does. It only really takes 4 stakes. However, I prefer to use the 6, which I'll get into a little bit later. The caveat to that is with only 4 stakes, it may not hold up in a high wind or a stormy situation. But there's plenty of other tie-out points, including 2 peak guy-outs, as well as perimeter areas where you can stake this thing out, I think up to 12 stakes. Now, like I said, this has 2 peak tie-outs, which are the main things you want to put up in the storm. But this one doesn't come with any kind of line lock, so I put my own on. I had a few line locks that have loops where you can take them on and off of tents and tarps, and I put it on here. I got them from Z-Pack, so because I'm lazy and I just don't feel like tying knots. I just want to be able to stake out the line and tighten it up and it's done. So I have those on there, and I'm just going to leave them on there so that way if I need them, they're always there. I don't have to put them on. This has 2 vestibules, one on each side, each with YKK number 3 zippers, so they're waterproof. There's plenty of space to store all kinds of gear, especially with this section of the vestibule. Also, each side on the peaks, there's a vent, which is something that's unique on, as far as I know, on single wall tents. You can simply just close it up or open it up. You can even do it from when the vestibules close on the inside. And this helps reduce the condensation, so it lets more airflow go in and out of the tent. The inside doors also have YKK number 3 zippers, but the difference with this door is there's 2 differences. The first difference with this door is that it attaches at the top and not at the bottom. So when you unzip it, you're unzipping the bottom and it hangs up, so you're not crawling in and out on the net and ruining your door. And it has tie-outs that you can tie it up. Another benefit of how this geometry design is set up is the trekking poles are off to the side on each side of the tent. So what this does, since the trekking pole is moved over, it makes it easier for you to get in and out. This pole is not in the way, which is something, it's a big plus for me. Another thing about these doors, about stowing them away, is that there's not a little toggle, which you have to use 2 hands. There's a little magnetic loop here that just holds it out. And also, with the bug netting, since it does attach at the top, so it always doesn't hang, there's little tie outs so that you can roll it up and tie it up if you want to have it totally open. Another thing I really like about this tent is that it's primarily, getting in and out is primarily just a one-hand operation. And if, say for instance, you're getting out, you can unzip the inside, you get out, you can release the door from the toggle, and you can zip it up all with the same hand, so you don't have to worry about using two to have to pull things tight to get in and out of the tent, which is a big plus. Pretty much everything about this vestibules, these doors, how you stole them, it's just easy. It's just a simple way to do it. So now let's take a closer look on the inside. Now something else that I really like about this tent is the bathtub floor. And basically the bathtub floor can connect to the bottom of your trekking pole to keep it pulled tight, as well as each of the four corners have little stays with line that goes out to the stakes that keep it taut and keep it a nice crease so it doesn't blow all around in the wind and flop up, and you have a distinct bathtub floor. Now the inside of this tent is very roomy. Again, based on this geometric design, it keeps the roof away from your head and the walls away from your feet and head when you're sleeping. It just seems like there's just so much more room in this tent. The peak height is 46 inches or 117 centimeters. The floor width is 48 inches or 122 centimeters. And the floor length is 90 inches or 230 centimeters. So what this gives you is 30 square feet or 2.6 square meters. And I'm telling you, this is very roomy. This can accommodate people up to 6 feet 4 inches. And just for reference, I'm 5'8". There's plenty of headroom as well as plenty of room for your feet. And I can tell you, there's a lot of room between your head and your feet and the walls and the ceiling. Tons of room. So your feet and your sleeping pad or your quilt, they're not gonna touch the walls, which is nice. Now, this is a two-person tent, which, as we all know, people that are familiar with tents, two-person tent really means a one-person tent. But in this, you can fit 2 wide sleeping pads in here. I have 2 pads, and each of them are 25 inches wide. And they fit. It's a pretty tight fit, so you're gonna greatly reduce the amount of space you're gonna have in there for gear if you have 2 pads in there. But you still have a good amount of room at your feet for some gear. Plus, the vestibules are huge. You can put most of your gear there. Now, the weight of this tent is 20.4 ounces, which is 578 grams, but that is without the guy lines or any of the stakes. That is just the tent and the stuff sack. With the 4 required stakes and the stuff sacks, it comes in at 21.6 ounces. And with mine, with the loop, with the line locks, all the guy out lines that I put on here, and I carry about 10 to 12 stakes, so mine comes to around 23.5 ounces total. This is also very packable. It packs down very small, and it can squish even further. So it fits horizontally or vertically in your backpack really well. All right, so let's talk about the price, because this thing is pricey. When I purchased this back in January during the pre-sale, the tent itself was $639, with the stake sack was another $10. Now the price is listed on their website at $679 for the tent, another $10 for the 6 stakes that they'll give you. So what do you get for that price? Well, you get the tent and you get a stuff sack. If you also order the stakes, which for additional $10, you get the 6 stakes, aluminum Y stakes, plus the stuff sack for them. Now, when I got my tent, I did get the stakes. I don't use those stakes. I like my Easton Nano stakes. However, in with the stakes, there was a length of line, which you use to cut down for your guy lines. Now, that was in the stake bag. So the one thing I don't know is if you get the guy lines with the tent, if they would include that, or if you have to buy the stakes and then they include the guy lines. So just be aware of that if you just order the tent, you may or you may not get the guy lines. And finally, you get a 2-year warranty against any kind of defect. All right, so let's summarize by going over some of the pros and cons. And the first thing, my first impression, because this is my first look, is I am really loving this tent. It is more stable than my Altiplex, and that's only with 6 stakes. And there's just so much more room, and it's just, I don't know, the pitch is just cleaner. It's just easier to set up. I don't have to mess around. So some of the pros with this, again, are that it's easy to set up. It's very light. There's plenty of space. It only takes 4, but I use 6 stakes to set it up. The trekking pole is off to the side, which gives you, if you leave your doors open, still a little bit of vestibule space to store some gear. And if you shut it, the vestibules are very large. The doors are connected at the top, so you're not crawling in and out, but you can tie them out. The magnetic locks, it's one-handed operation, You can get in and out just by using the one hand. You can shut it. You don't have to reach out with two to connect it. Each peak has vents. That's a big pro for me. Tons of room on the inside, and it packs down very small. Some of the cons, there's only a few that I've seen so far. The biggest con, of course, is the price. It is very expensive. It's almost $700 for this tent. Another con is it does not have line locks for the tie outs. And the last con that I see is that it stems from one of the benefits of having a 4-stake pitch, but that gets it standing. I wouldn't necessarily recommend having this out there in a windy situation with just 4 stakes. For me personally, I'm always, in good weather, I will always use 6 stakes to stake it out. And that includes the one to hold this door, which gives a little bit more support to the trekking pole. But I'm always going to carry about 10 to 12 stakes. You should always carry more because there's a lot more guy out points here for you to stake this thing out in a stormy situation. So you don't want to be out there with only 4 stakes and then hit bad weather. That would not be good. But as long as you have the stakes with you, it's not going to be a problem at all. So that's it. That's my new tent, the Durston Gear X-Mid Pro 2 Dyneema version in spruce green. And I cannot wait to take this out. I'm planning on a trip in the next couple weeks, so I'm really looking forward to using this. So you tell me what you think about this tent in the comments below. And if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.